CanHammer is a gaming podcast from the Great White North. See canhammer.ca for more info.
All right, guys, to start the new year and to commemorate the soon-to-be Battle of Terra in the Horus Heresy series, here's a good joke. How do you kill the Emperor?
I don't know, Darren. How do you kill the Emperor?
You pull the plug.
Well, that's not even a joke. That's reality.
I think Cypher would approve.
Maybe that's all Cypher's trying to do, get in there and pull the plug.
Press the reset button.
So did you ever hear, I don't know where I got this from, I don't know who told me, but there was this story that goes way back where apparently the Emperor is like a god who's constantly reborn every time he dies. Like,
Yeah, he's an eternal.
Yeah, Star Child or whatever.
So there's all these like kind of older, I don't know if it's canon anymore, but there's all those old stories where like he was this famous character in history, and like, you know, like Genghis Khan, and he was Caesar, and maybe he was Hitler, who knows. And then every time he died and came back as a different being, and that Cypher knows this and is trying to kill him so that he comes back as a normal entity. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
The Emperor's an eternal, I would agree. I think that if Vulcan was one, then he would more than likely be one.
Because it could be interesting, right? So, like, do you think that the dead Primarchs are also Eternals and they'll all come back, or is just Vulcan one?
No, just Vulcan.
Why?
Vulcan, John Grammaticus, the Emperor, maybe, possibly. Who knows? Maybe even Cypher is one. I don't know.
Interesting. Anyway, this is CanHammer episode 121. We are doing a kind of New Year's kind of year recap, what our goals are in the hobby, just some of the things we've been up to. Today's special guest is Skari.
Why, hello, CanHammer fans.
So as usual, I am your host, Chris, and I have my co-host,
Darren.
And so we're going to start off, we're going to do shout-outs of our new patrons and redactions. So I'm going to start off as we have a few redactions from the last show. And, you know, it's okay. We got a ton of feedback from a bunch of different people about a couple little things that we made mistakes on. So the first thing is we pimped a list, and the points, some of the points were wrong. They'd been changed. And, Nick sent us the list, and he used the incorrect point values, and we didn't notice all of them or some of them. So, our bad. The other thing is you cannot use Destiny dice. This is for Age of Sigmar. When you're doing Tzeentch armies can use Destiny dice to change results. They can't use it when doing mortal wounds. So when it says you can do D6 mortal wounds, you can't use your Destiny dice to, make it a 4, make it a 5, make it a 6.
Doesn't it specifically say what you can use Destiny dice for?
Yeah, it says damage rolls, and then they clarified that the D6 mortal wounds is not a damage roll. So
sounds like a damage roll to me.
But it's not. It's not a damage roll. Yeah, it's
okay.
Technically not. And then the other thing is that Lord Croak cannot cast his power 3 times, even though it explicitly says in his War Scroll. Because I've never played against Lord Croak, and it was actually news to me in the last show that he was a big deal at Du Bois, and the guys were saying that, and so we kind of assumed that he could, but he cannot. Even though it explicitly says in his War Scroll that he can cast it 3 times, the rule of 1 always trumps everything. So you could literally have a War Scroll that says this trumps the rule of 1, and then it doesn't, because the rule of 1s are, I don't know, trump everything.
So when would you be able to do it? Like open play or narrative? Or
yeah, anything that's not match play. You could cast his same spell. Now, he can still cast 3 spells, and he has access to enough spells that he's still really good and powerful.
Yeah.
And I did confirm that the guy at Du Bois was not using it incorrectly. We just interpreted what he was doing incorrectly. Well, I was doing it from afar, and then those guys kind of interpreted it incorrectly.
Yeah,
which is fine. So he did nothing wrong. So we want to start out. We also want to give a shout out to all of our patrons. Thanks, guys, for all your support, and happy holidays and happy New Year. Cool. So we brought Skari on the show because we kind of have a little announcement. So I'll hand it off to Skari. He can kind of give a little intro and tell you guys why he's here.
Well, thank you, Chris and Darren. Well, it's exciting to kind of announce that Skaredcast and CanHammer will be doing quite a few collaborations in this new year, and hopefully for many years to come. I'll be making sure that there's some additional content on things like the blog and the YouTube channel, specific content designed for CanHammer. So I'm really excited to say, stay tuned as I, send me a message or an email if there's something specific that you'd like to see from me specifically for the Canadian community. But I'm very excited to work hand in hand with you guys and really expand, what is already a fantastic repertoire of great hobby content to supplement the podcast and all the stuff that Darren does as well. So I'm very excited to have, be able to work with you guys and really kind of the aim here is to bring the Canadian community, the gaming Canadian community to the forefront of the international stage and really make us, forerunners in this game of life essentially and really bring out you're dead. No, I'm just kidding. Bring out, what we know is great resources that we have nationally here in Canada and just focus those heavy lifting powers that we have to really set us apart in an international stage that's more and more becoming, like global instead of so secluded,
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I think that's really going to help us in the future banding together as like CanHammer, as like a Canadian resource for gaming, for tournaments, for sponsoring the ETC team, like everything. It's just super exciting stuff, and I'm really happy to help be a part of that.
Awesome. So you can correct me if I say anything that's wrong, but the way that I'm interpreting all this is that Skaredcast is still 100% going to be Skari's enterprise. That's his personal blogs, his personal battle reports, all that cool stuff. He'll be contributing, as he said, to the CanHammer group, which isn't really Darren and myself. It's very open. We let anybody who wants to can play under the CanHammer name for ITC rankings. We try to get as many events across mostly Ontario under that name just to share advertising, workload, and support like website space. And we also just try to work together with members of the community. So if Skaredcast isn't going away and CanHammer's not really changing, but we're just kind of going to put our effort together and kind of show the world that the Canadian community is more, I guess, together, banding together, and is more solid than I guess it's kind of represented in the past. And the ETC team is a good example of that.
It's always a shame when we have 10 different small groups working at different crossways or don't really talk much to each other. And our country's big and there's a big problem with geography, but it's always try to get people working together. So I'm really welcoming this awesome collaboration with Skari, and we're trying to get over to the European side as well. So we're hooked up with Martin and Skari as well. We're part of this big alliance of YouTube channels, including some of the big names over in England. So I think this is just a natural progression of what we've been trying to do to try to put Canada on the map for Warhammer 40K and AOS.
Right on. So, Derek, do you have any more shout-outs and redactions to do yourself? Or
I never have redactions.
Yeah, Darren's like, nah, I don't care. I screw up. It doesn't matter.
The one podcast I wasn't here and is like all these redactions. Like
You're the lexicanum there, Darren. You know everything inside out. I love it.
Don't inflate his ego.
There's just upcoming, hopefully this year as well, down from Sequence Comics in Brockville. They're hoping to start filming their AOS down there, and of course Chris plays at Sequence quite often, I think. And they hold regular tournaments down there for AOS, and so we're hoping to actually add to our AOS content on the channel by collaborating with them. So AOS has been a little bit absent recently because I've just been finding it too much to keep both games going. But so hopefully we're going to be adding a lot more AOS this year.
Mm-hmm. That is kind of one of the goals, is to get more done. So, Darren, do you want to talk about the new rebranding?
Yeah, so, we gave a big shout out to all our patrons, and they have been a large contributor to us being able to start 2018 with a new look CanHammer. Just gave everything a little bit of a modernizing and a spiffiness, working a little bit on that sort of Canadian edge, but not too Canadian. We don't want like beavers and things sticking out of our symbol, but just keep the Canadian flavor, a bit of iciness and coldness, and so you should have already noticed all the new logos, banners, websites been spiffed up, everything that's been spiffed up, and when the first YouTube video does hit YouTube next week, you're going to see some new stuff on that. So very excited about the rebranding. Gives us gives us motivation to start doing more stuff again after a little break for Christmas. So
nice clean look. One of the major issues that we ran into is when merchandising is we didn't have proper high-res stuff, and we didn't have certain file types that we may have needed, and we kind of used the same picture for everything, and so we wanted to kind of branch out and customize things a little bit more, which I think it looks really good. It's a lot cleaner, simpler, more modern. The old logo was awesome, but if you look at a lot of corporate logos, they're very simple now. They're very easy to draw, let's say, if you needed to. They stick out more, whereas ours was really awesome for the time, but definitely is a bit dated.
And also, like, it was more towards the fantasy side, and although we do AOS, we kind of wanted something that kind of straddled all sides, and as well something that Andrew can use for Batman. So we didn't want it too, like Warhammer-y or, fantasy or too...
You put a hammer on it, it's still a hammer.
Yeah, but it's pretty
good. CanHammer. Like, if there's no hammer in CanHammer, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
No, I noticed it on... I could buy that hammer at Canadian Tire.
That's true. It is Canadian tested, right? I did notice the new branding on the Patreon page, so that's awesome. It does look really good, and I'm excited to see that like movement forward, modernizing. It's not just all igloos and mooses up here.
Yeah, and the cool thing, one of the best parts is that we actually have an animated intro now for all of our YouTube videos. That's the best part. It's like fantastic. So now we actually look somewhat professional. And we have more coming. Like we're so actually there is a shout out. We have one of our patrons, Steven. He's been waiting for his free shirt, and I've been having issues with the embroidery on the old logo. So as soon as that comes back, we'll also get him a new logo shirt. So you'll be waiting a little bit long, Steven, but you'll be getting everything new and old. So you should be happy.
Ooh.
Yeah,
because like it's just we ran into some, as I said before, we ran into some production issues on the older stuff. So we're gonna move into hobby. Darren, what kind of hobby you been up to?
Well, I was away all last week, so I didn't do anything while I was in Toronto. Well, actually, I lie. I went to Games Workshop and I did a lot of hobby shopping
every day and harassed them.
Well, I got my Slime Arbo from GW Mississauga. They had like 10 left, so that was great because I wasn't in Ottawa for Boxing Day to get mine. And then and you literally could not get it anywhere else. Like Martin didn't get it, Dylan didn't get any. It was just pure GW.
Ooh, I got one.
Yeah, and then when I was in Saga, I managed to get brass rods and stuff I needed for the Thunderhawk. So before I went away, though, I was basically, once the Dark Angels Codex came out, did all those Primaris things that's been sitting around since 8 started. So I did redid 9 of my 15 aggressors into bolter aggressors. I did 9 Inceptors, 6 Plasma, and 3 Bolter ones. I have another 3 Bolter ones I haven't assembled yet. And I did 10 Hellblasters, so I could try out all the new Dark Angel stuff.
Hellblasters are nasty.
Yeah, so that's almost all done. I just have to paint the Inceptors, which are halfway done. And so I frantically went through those because I wanted to get on to my big winter Christmas project, which was the Thunderhawk.
Ooh.
Which was... really, really super fun. Probably the best Forge Roll kit I've done so far.
Well, you said it went together perfectly, right?
Oh, it goes together like if it was plastic. Everything fits perfectly well. And we're not just talking straight edges or 90-degree angles. Like, there's a lot of complex joins on this thing that went together perfectly. Like, no bending, no warpage, very little flash to clean. Super, super awesome model. Pleasure to put together. Just ran into a little snag. The wings are too heavy. One wing is almost the size of a Mastodon, and it's pretty heavy, and it wouldn't stay on with my usual mix of glue and putty. So that's why I had to find those brass rods. I got 1/4-inch brass rods to stake them onto the side of the thing. And I'm missing one piece, so Forge World needs to send me a missing piece. Maybe they'll send me another Thunderhawk. I don't know. They tend to do things like that.
Nah, they won't. There's no way.
And I decided, because this is going to be Asriel's flagship, his Thunderhawk is called The Roar of Vengeance, as of the Pandarax novels. So I've ordered some Dark Angels Land Raider doors, which apparently are the same size as the side doors on the Thunderhawk, so it's going to be done up special.
Sick. No, that's going to look good. So, Skari, you been doing any hobby lately?
Yes, I have, sir. So by the way, Darren, that Thunderhawk looks amazing. And anybody who isn't already following you on Instagram, I highly recommend they do, because you're putting up some really cool pictures. And
yeah,
really nice to see.
That work in progress will go on YouTube next week.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. All these, I love Forge World. I think it's a great aspect of the hobby. And the Thunderhawk is like the epitome of every, there's some other big Space Marine kits now, but the Thunderhawk is still up there, in terms of being a classic kit for any Space Marine collector. So
yeah,
that's it looks really cool.
It's the nicest kit. I think it's the nicest.
Yeah, it's just like a big brick that flies like any Space Marine flyer, but it's just such an iconic image when you see a Thunderhawk. And now with things like power level and things like that, it's just so much easier to be able to play that sort of thing in your army and not have it feel like out of place, even in just a bit of a larger game than a regular game,
Yeah, it's actually a lot less boxy than the old Thunderhawk, which was literally like a brick. This has a lot more angles and levels on it. It's actually quite a complex model, and the underside is beautifully detailed. It's got all these retro thrusters and stuff on it. And if I was really enterprising, I could have made all the rudders go up and down, and all the sponsons rotate. And
wow. You didn't?
Yeah, I could have.
You didn't do any of that?
The sponsons I did, and the two little wings on top, they're like X-wing attack wings. They're supposed to go up and down. Yeah, they do go up and down, but there's no easy way of having them stay up and stay down, like to have actual positioning. So I just left them down, but I don't think it looks that good when it's up, to be honest. But
interesting. Well, to answer that question, I've been working on my competitive Dark Eldar army. So right now I've been working with a 2,000 point army that's designed for ITC play, and I've been, play testing it and really focusing on getting that finished and painted. You and I had been chatting, Chris, about, applying for the ETC team and making sure that I have a finished army. So that's really kind of inspired me to make sure that the army that I do have, not only do I enjoy playing it and it be hard hitting, but I've put it out in my gaming area, and I'm essentially focused on getting that 2,000 point army finished, and it's really kind of helping me stay focused. So I'm really looking forward. I really like where my Dark Eldar are going in the direction in terms of hobby. I just need to make sure that I don't deviate from the plan. It's too easy to pick up a variety of different things and finish 50 things half done and not have one full thing.
How pure is the Dark Eldar army that you're running right now? Is it 100%?
It's not 100%. Right. Well, I've been toying with a variety of different lists. But right now, something that I have found very useful is a Supreme Command detachment with a Jet Farseer and 2 Warlocks on jet bikes. Simply put, an Eldar Farseer with Doom really adds a lot to a Dark Eldar army. being able to doom specific targets with the amount of poison that the Dark Eldar have and the lack of rerolls, it really helps offset a lot of that. And then Jink as well is a power that I've been using with my Warlocks to lower the saves of any target that I really need annihilated.
Mm-hmm. No, it sounds interesting. It's just I know a lot of people be curious because I guess Dark Eldar get a lot of I'm not gonna say hate, but they get a lot of people underrate them, I guess, in the current meta. And so I was just wondering, is it mostly Eldar with a little bit of Dark Eldar? But from the sounds of things, it's mostly Dark Eldar. So
yeah,
it's pretty interesting.
It's very much Dark Eldar. Like I've kind of gone for the traditional Venom centric part of the army, which has with that -1 to hit, and it is actually quite good. So the core of the army is based around 6 Venoms, and then I do have 2 of the Forge World Reapers in the list. Now the Reapers are like a Ravager, but they are they've got an extra couple of wounds. They have the potential firepower of 2 Ravagers each instead of just 1. Mm-hmm. And what they give up is a little bit of mobility, being their weapon is a heavy weapon, not an assault weapon. And then the trick up the sleeve, of course, is a Homunculus that allows all vehicles that are Coven within 6 inches to add +1 to their toughness. So all my Venoms become toughness 6, and the Reapers as well can be Coven, so they become toughness 7 tanks.
Sick. Okay, so you're painting them. That's great. So I guess we move on to me. So I've been just grinding out Fire Slayers, man. It's actually coming along really nicely. I know it's been a while, but it's a 120 model army. So I actually did something very similar to what Ridvan was talking about, or Skari, is I took, I have this folding table that I use for playing Warhammer on, and I took it and I put it in my office, and I opened up the folding table, and I put all my Fire Slayer stuff on it, and I just sorted it, made all my units, and just displayed them so they're right behind me at all times, all the units. I put my display board on there, just so it's easy access. And then I was like, okay, I got to start actually getting these guys done, because I think I joked on the last show I had to do 5 models a day, right? Because I want them done for LVO. This will kind of get into our goals for the next year when we get to the end of the cast, but I want to get these guys done so I can just play with them for the next while, and if I want to add a unit in, I still have the core finished. So I actually I was getting fed up with base coding models, because I did half of them or 60 of them base code, and I said, this sucks. So I ordered Army Painter Barbarian Flesh, and I just spray bombed the whole army like a peach color. Oh, and it just saves me so much work, because now all I do is I pick out all the details and then wash them, and they actually turn out quite nice. So I got 30 guys that were rebased on rounds. They just need some touch-up paint and some flock to finish up. And then right now I'm deep into 30 double axe Fire Slayers. It's actually 33, because I have to fill out one of my other units. And I've been assembly lining 33 models at once. So I get home from work, and if I have time, it's either that or late at night, I just do all the orange beards, and then all the blue pants, and then all the bronze. And I'm just assembly lining in batches of roughly 30 guys at a time. So they get all
that sounds painful.
It's actually not bad, because I have enough time that I really only need to do 1 color a day.
Yeah.
So as long as I stay at it, and 1 color on 30 guys is only an hour and a half. Yeah. So you get a good audiobook on or podcast, you go through it, you're like, okay, I'm done, and then I just go to bed or go to hockey or whatever I have to do after that. And then when I have extra time and I'm done my 1 color, as a reward, I'll actually assemble another model usually. So today, actually, I assembled Abaddon, or it was yesterday, but Abaddon the Despoiler, or Abaddon, however you like to pronounce that. I think it's Abaddon. The model is ancient. I got the new Finecast version, but it is super dated. And he's almost he's comparable to a dwarf. When I stand a Fire Slayer next to him, they're the same height. He's a little bit taller, but it's just hideous. But it goes so well with my 18 GW Obliterators. So I've tried to not buy new models. I've been wanting to just paint stuff that I already own, but that just never works. So that's why I'm kind of forcing myself to just stick to the Fire Slayers and the CSM for now, and then I'll just paint that stuff, and then I'm trying not to buy new stuff, but we'll see how that goes. You know what I mean? Like it's like a hobby goal is to have everything painted, and I don't think it's actually achievable.
Yeah, it's like a vicious cycle. Like I was the exact same, and then I pop into the hobby shop and walk out with a blister pack. You know, I'm like, ah, damn it, you know, I've got to now build another character.
Yeah. Well, and I basically this is kind of a segue into the news and rumors section, is the demons, 40k demons have a lot of changes coming. So a lot of all the painting I've been doing the last maybe year and a half is just gone. It's like all useless now, but we'll have to get to that. So we'll move on to new releases, news, and things of note after a short break and a message from our sponsor.
Hey guys, Martin here from wargamesuk.co.uk. Proud to sponsor their boys at CanHammer. Come check us out for some great discounts on all your hobby goodness and needs.
And we are back. You guys heard a little bit from Martin there over in the UK.
Martin's a great guy, and he should be back. He's hoping to come back this year again for the Capital City Bloodbath, I believe.
He's hoping to bring a British contingent with him,
Ooh,
maybe.
Fancy.
Some big names. Apparently, I've heard some big name drops, you know, but
yes, I have.
I don't believe it until I see it. So So I'll hand it off to you, Darren, for the 40k news and rumors.
Yeah, so it's the month of Chaos. So Chaos Demons coming out. Pre-order. I think pre-order already happened, right? It's coming out next week.
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah. So Chaos Demons. They already spoiled Khorne this morning, and so I guess over the next few days we'll get the other gods. But that kind of obviously coincides with all the Nurgle stuff for AOS, which we'll come to in a second. But yeah, so Chaos Demons coming out next for 40k. What do you guys think are the next ones?
Well,
next two codexes.
I don't want to go there yet. Come on.
Oh, okay.
Let's get into details. So the Khorne stuff, they just released some like rules about them killing Titans, blah, blah. But they released the Locusts for all the different heralds, which I think is pretty awesome. The Tzeentch one's pretty solid. Like you roll 2d6. You pick the highest, and then in combat, that number counts as a miss.
Discard the highest.
Discard the highest.
Yeah.
Pick the lowest, and then that is no longer what people hit you. Like people can't hit you on that number.
Yeah.
Which is
like 4 modifiers. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like it's okay, but it's a start. But the big thing I wanted to talk about was what they did. Or this is allegedly. So allegedly, all the horrors, their shooting attacks. Well, they're all getting shooting attacks, apparently. And it goes by the strength of the user.
Mm-hmm.
Pinks have a 4+ invul. Blues have a 5+ invul. And Brims are down to a 6+ invul.
Oh, I'm so happy.
The Changeling is no longer -1 to hit. It's a 6+ feel no pain for all units within 9.
That's going to be a big, big change if that's true.
Yeah, that's huge. That's like crazy. And then... then they have a ton of stratagems. They're going to have like a deep striking stratagem that goes up depending on like how much power level or I believe or the amount of mauls in the unit. And so there's a combo that's rumored where you could take 30 bloodletters. You could basically deep strike them, so you go 9 inches away, and then you could charge 3d6 re-rolling.
Bloodletters are not bad.
So
if they get there.
I'm actually thinking Khorne might be a thing if that's true. Like,
hopefully,
turn 1, if I drop 30 bloodletters in your face and I go straight, I know it's like 5 command points or something, or 4 command points, but you drop them in, you go straight in, you kill all the guys' chaff. Now the entire opponent's army has to shoot them, and if he kills them, whatever, then turn 2 you just do it again.
It seems like if they do get things like the ability to deep strike, like a bloodthirster in your face or something as well, that'd be kind of cool.
I think it's any unit, yeah. So as long as you have the right amount of command points, and I'm assuming it's done before, obviously if you're deep striking it, it's going to be not in any phases, so you can probably use it multiple times, which is kind of nifty.
Yeah, let's. If you watch the Christmas bat rep, me versus Ryan, he did bring his Khorne army, 60 bloodletters and bloodthirster and demon prince and all that sort of stuff, and he did kick my butt with it. So
that's funny. So, and I think that's the main summary from the demon book. I just wanted to go a bit more detail because I'm super stoked. I think I'll be crushed though if the brims, like I have 150 brims.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's really funny, like later in the podcast we're going to be talking about, winners, losers, that sort of stuff. But it's very interesting to see how the winners that we might name might not be winners for very long.
That's true.
Because Games Workshop has been so on top of just anything that seems just too good. Like it's good, and then all of a sudden it's not. It's just I'm very, very pleased with that sort of dynamic.
Yeah. Now, if the rumors are true, I'm not salty at all. Like I've already moved on from demons to Chaos Space Marines, but if the rumors are true, then those brimstones better go back down to 2 points, because I actually think that they're at 3 points they won't be nearly as effective. And down at 2 points, you can now still take 90 of them just to use them in a different role. They're going to die, but they're going to still control board space and bubble wrap units, which is what they're supposed to do. They're not supposed to be like this unkillable horde. So, pretty exciting stuff. So we'll move on to the AOS new releases, because I am stoked, because I know I've been playing just so much AOS lately, which I know people are frustrated. Like, I still play 40k, but just the AOS, because I'm going AOS LVO, it's on my mind, but they finally are giving us a real release. So we're getting basically a Nurgle release. And so they did 7 different Nurgle units that they kind of peaked. But ultimately we're getting a Meggetkin of Nurgle book, which is awesome. So they're going to flush out the faction. They're going to give them special rules. They're going to give them all that cool stuff. They did a new Great Unclean One model. What do you guys think of that?
Oh my goodness!
Well, it looks kind of like the old one.
No, it looks way better than the old one.
It looks like it literally. If you go to the 2nd edition Codex, right, the Chaos Codex, and you open it up, there's like an artwork of a greater demon of Nurgle with a big tongue and big fat belly, and like they essentially have recreated that artwork.
Well, it looks like the Forge World resin one, basically.
Yeah,
but more modern,
does, like size-wise,
more detailed,
and stuff.
more modern.
But in terms of look and like just style, if you look at that picture in the 2nd edition Chaos Space Marine Codex,
yeah,
and it's uncanny. I love it. It's one of my favorite pieces of artwork.
$170 though.
That's what I was just gonna say. I actually heard it's bigger than the Forge World one. It's $170. It's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
I don't know, actually.
It's gonna be Lord of Change sized.
Yeah,
you think?
It's massive. You didn't see the picture where it's kind of put together? It's to help with scale, and it's scaled up against what's the big nasty death sorcerer man?
Nagash?
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, I think that's one. They put him next to Nagash. He's huge. Like, he's so big that you could probably fill him with chocolate, right? He's that.
Yeah.
You could cut him in half.
It's just going to be
and
a
then
hollow ball of plastic?
Oh, it's going to be totally hollow. It's going to be like the Glockkin, where it was like puzzle pieces that kind of... This is my prediction. It's going to be like puzzle pieces that kind of fit around it. Like the Glockkin's totally hollow when you build that. I was amazed building that. It was so much fun. And I'm predicting he's going to be the same. And yeah, a smart hobbyist is going to cut him in half. And they're going to have like a little so you just pull the top off and he's full of like M&Ms or Smarties. And then they can just be like, oh... I don't know, let's say he has like 100 wounds, you put 100 M&Ms in there, and then you take them out and eat them as you take wounds off them. I think that'd be pretty awesome.
That'd be really funny.
That would be
you
good.
Could go for best sportsman, be like, here's Nurgle's gift. And be like,
every wound you do to him, you get some candy.
Yeah, like I would put it on my hobby desk as like a candy dish instead of using it. But, and so the awesome part about that kit is that there's actually like they're not distinctly different because they're all just fat blobs of pus, but there's like 3 different ways you can build them, one of whom is a special character, which is kind of neat.
Yep.
Yeah. They also... Rodigus, which is awesome because they've always had a Nurgle Great Unclean One special character in the 40k Codex and stuff like that of the old, and it never had a model, so you didn't really know what to do for that. But now it's pretty solid. They also did some Lord of Blights, which are Puscoil Blight Lords. They did my new favorite model in Age of Sigmar, the Sloppity Bile Piper. And so what he is he's basically a herald in style and theme, but he plays like an organ bagpipes, and he's marching around, and he has this little Nurgling on his base, kind of marching with them. It's a pretty awesome kit.
And he makes them move faster or something, eh?
Yeah, he does some kind of area buff. I didn't get into his rules because I was so just in love with that figure that I was like.
Do you think we're going to see data slates for these specific things for 40k?
You won't know till the Demon Book comes out. So that's one of the weird things is that Age of Sigmar, they did separate Nurgle demons and Tzeentch demons as two separate factions, but 40k, it's all in one book. So for people that are interested in ETC style play, the demons are going to be the demons, right? If you want to have a Khorne demon army, that's it. You can't have anything else. So
yeah,
which is pretty cool. But hopefully with this new Demon Codex for 40k, it's no longer like right now. I feel like the Demon Codex is a support book for Chaos Space Marines. They give them survivable hordes and a few other things. Whereas it'd be nice if it could be its own standalone book, because you never see pure demon armies do well anymore, if ever, in this edition. But they also have a few other heralds, new Beast of Nurgle models, which are more of a throwback to the old Beast of Nurgle, which are like the slugs with tons of weird, crazy fungus on their head and things like that. Yeah. And they did a model that I personally don't like, but it's the Fusilent Gnarlmaw tree.
Feculent.
It's like a Nurgle tree, and it looks like it has three big fly eyes on it.
Yeah, I don't really like it either. Did you mention the Blight Lords on the drones?
I did very quickly, yeah. But yeah, take it away.
Those guys look cool.
And then the big rumor is that next we're getting some more death stuff like Night Haunts and things like that.
So this whole thing is part of this Malignant Portents thing, right? Which we're on part 7 of, and they still haven't told us exactly what's going on. But
it's basically a campaign / fluff change. That's what it's supposed to be like. But
there's got to be some death with it.
There's going to be death, apparently, but I think that this Meggetkin book is just like the next logical progression in codexes, right?
Yeah.
I say codex when I mean battle tome or whatever.
Well, I thought we were going to get a Nurgle battle tome when Death Guard came out, right?
Yeah.
Because they were really kind of building up, but then it didn't. But now it is.
Well, now finally it has. It takes a while to develop the right diseases. Like they have to just gestate the right amount of time. Being a doctor there, Darren, you should understand these things.
Yep. Incubation time.
Yeah. Well, and you have to think too.
That's all it takes.
This release, both the 40k Demon Book and this Nurgle release, it's all Nurgle models that got redone, and it was a large amount of them. So I understand it is it takes them time to get these things done. Like that Great Unclean One kit's probably been in the works for 2 years now, right? So. Yeah. Cool. So we're gonna move on. Wait.
I forgot your favorite Stormcast.
Oh, I did skip right over him so there's a new Stormcast model. So every basic faction,
another Stormcast model.
This guy's awesome. So what they did is every main faction got for Malignant Portents got a special kind of character, right? The Goblins got their Mushroom Man. And so they finally released the Order one, and he's awesome. He's a Lord Ordinator.
Is that Shadespire?
No, this is for Sigmar, Age of Sigmar campaign. And so what he is he's a storm. He's like a Stormcast character. His arms are bare, and he has 2 hammers. And his whole kind of story behind him is he's one of the few Stormcasts that isn't like a frontline troop, out there on the front lines taking land. What his job is he kind of goes behind the armies. Once they reconquer one of the realms, he goes in with the dispossessed workers. They specifically mention that, which is super exciting, because the dispossessed are such a cool faction, dwarves or Duardin, but they're super neglected. So that the fact that they're mentioned means, hey, maybe we'll get some dispossessed stuff. So he goes in with them, and they set up fortifications, they rebuild cities, and they're preparing for some kind of future, because they read the stars, they're preparing for some kind of futuristic onslaught, or future onslaught, not futuristic, but future onslaught to come in, so he's kind of preparing the defenses. And so I think it's really cool, because this is the first time that we have a Stormcast-style character that's not kind of they're not one-dimensional, but, like, he actually does something different than the rest of the army.
Murder, kill, die, reborn, murder, kill, die.
Yeah, it's very much like he actually integrates with other people and talks to them and deals with the public, and you know, he's probably a nice guy, and he's a hard worker.
So he's the PR guy.
He's like the laborer, yeah. He's like the tech marine kind of, right? It's pretty awesome. I'm stoked.
It's time to unionize, he says.
I just like that they're branching that out, and that Sigmar isn't so one-dimensional. Hey, my guys are going to go kill all the chaos. No, there's actually a plan, and they're going to try to retake the realms, they're going to fortify them, and they're going to try to defend the realms, because I have a feeling that Death is going to try to retake some of them, so...
Yes, please.
I've heard that new, like, on and off-topic thing, I've heard that new little campaign system for Age of Sigmar with the cards and stuff is really fun.
Which one? Oh, the, was it the fire... I never played it.
Yeah, you can, like, you basically draw, like, you play a campaign, you draw cards, based on the card is how big your army can be in one mission you play. It's like the open war cards, but, like, you know, it's just, it plays an entire campaign now.
Oh, cool.
I've heard it's quite entertaining, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played in a campaign in, like, many years. I'm just not that type, but it sounds interesting. If I had a bigger player base where I live, I'd maybe give it a shot. Cool, so we're going to move on to the main segment. We're going to talk about a few things here. We're going to talk about what we've accomplished, what our goals are, winners and losers of 2017 and 2018, and so on. So I will hand it off to you, Darren.
Yeah, I guess most of what I've accomplished this year has been to do with CanHammer, really. So I guess this is really the first full year that I've been part of CanHammer. I sort of joined in the fall of last year, of 2016. So just spent the whole year just plugging away at the channel, trying to improve the YouTube content. Yeah, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, really. When I joined, we were about 1,200 subs, and now we're at 5,300. So it's been a big year for the YouTube channel. And then along with that comes more Facebook activity, the Instagram, so all that kind of all comes together. And then as we said before, the Patreon has also picked up and has allowed us to do really basic stuff that we were having to do ourselves before, like cover the the hosting for the podcast and simple things like that. People don't realize takes money. And so Patreon has really helped us along with that. To upgrade our equipment, the lighting is now redone, and of course our branding and stuff. So everything's sort of come over 2017 has really gone leaps and bounds for the channel there, and really my own personal accomplishments in Warhammer has been linked very closely to that. So yeah, that's kind of 2017 is a whirlwind, busy whirlwind.
Yeah, so Skari, do you want to go over anything that you feel you've accomplished in the last year?
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the things that I feel I really accomplished this year was getting out more and going to some more events. I've been busy working on getting my business up and running for the last 4 to 5 years now, and finally was at a place that I was able to kind of take a step back and visit some tournaments, and I went to the Capital City Bloodbath. That was one of my big accomplishments this year. Went to a bigger event and really kind of got back out in the hobby side of things. In terms of hobby, I'm really happy I finally got things done, like I got my Revenant Titan kind of like up and ready so I could play with it. I got my Tantalus ordered, which is a kit that I've wanted forever, and I built it and primed it and had it ready to go in like 2 days, which was a big accomplishment for me because I usually keep Forgeable stuff in a box forever and don't get to it as quickly as I'd like. And then there was a bit of kind of like hobby cleansing this year. got rid of all the Harlequins. I was going to be working on them and ended up selling them off at the Michael Mudd Memorial Tournament to kind of help raise money for a local animal shelter, and some odds and ends that were just taking up clutter and space, really. So all in all, it's been a mixed bag in terms of hobby achievements, and it's one of the reasons why I'm kind of refocusing my hobby efforts this year to not only, help with the CanHammer content creation, but also things like the tournaments that I help run, like the Michael Mudd Memorial or the Barry Bash, things like that really mean a lot to me. So, I'm very excited for 2018. It's definitely going to be a big year for us. So I'm excited about that.
Right on. So I guess myself, this year was a bit weird for me. I'd say that I didn't have the same level of gaming accomplishments that I maybe had the last 2 years. I didn't really have an army that I was 100% ready to go with. Post LVO, I was playing a lot of silly things like Demon Princes with Magnus, which I know is a good list, but it's not necessarily the top list. And so I this whole year, as far as gaming, I never felt 100% on point with my lists and my practice games and things like that. But other things so that was kind of one aspect of it that I was like, this year sucked. But then when I really thought about it, we accomplished a lot. We did CanHammer Team Tournament, was the first ITC ranked major in Canada, which was a big accomplishment for John Green and myself, who we kind of co-run that. He does a lot of the day of stuff, and that was a big one. I did 20 plus events this year, so whether or not they were one-day store tournaments or right up to the ETC, did all that stuff. I managed to captain an ETC team that didn't do so well gaming-wise. We weren't 100% ready for 8th edition. We weren't willing to go through some of the hoops that you had to do with the 300 birds and things like that, but we did manage to show up with 8 fully painted armies. We were rewarded with the Best Painted Team Award, which is very exciting for me because it means that I've gone to 2 ETCs and taken home 3 awards, all soft score related, but still that kind of matters sometimes as well. Capital City Bloodbath grew this year like crazy to the point where we had extra gaming systems. We had a Hobbit tournament, we had Age of Sigmar, we had 40K, and it went really well. It was just, I'm really thankful that event did well. The podcast, the listenership is up. We're more of a 40K focus now. We didn't do as much Age of Sigmar as I would like, but we're kind of moving back in that direction a little bit. But the podcast has been going from strength to strength. As Darren said before, we can now fund everything as well as do a little bit of extra stuff like hire somebody to do logo work and things like that, which is a big deal, and to me is a big accomplishment because it means that we're getting back kind of what we've put into it, and we really, I guess, are thankful and really enjoy that. But other than that's about it. I didn't paint as much as I wanted to, but I don't think I ever have painted as much as I wanted to, and I didn't play as many events as I wanted to, even though I think I've probably played in more events than most people in the entire world. But that's it. So I think that's good for me. So the next thing I wanted to focus on is what are our goals for the new year. So the year's done. The edition changed, stuff happened. Doesn't have to be hobby goals, but what do you want out of the next year in your gaming, Darren?
Well, just to go back to the hobby, I mean,
it could be hobby, gaming, whatever.
Yeah, I kind of separated out because I think they're kind of separate. But my hobby went from just
fine. We'll separate.
Received...
We'll just do hobby.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So just before 2017 hit, I just received my first army, the Ravenwing stuff that Andrew and Nick painted for me. And then just over the course of last year, I think I can put out a decently good-looking army now, and just starting to get into the airbrushing and messing with Forge World. And so my hobby has definitely improved over the last year. And so I just want to keep that going. I have a embarrassingly large stack of Forge World models that I've yet to put together. So hopefully I want to get all those done within the next few months. I want to get better airbrushing beyond just painting very large areas to maybe getting down into more finer work and getting the hang of shading and things like that with the airbrush, because I think that's an amazing tool that I've ignored for so long because I was just scared of actually trying to do it. Plus Nick's airbrush didn't work, but anyway, I fixed it. So I want to do that, and I want to keep pushing the hobby forward for the channel, to show better and new things. It's kind of boring when every week it's just a different Space Marine model that's being painted. I want to try putting some new stuff on the channel, different ways of showing the same content, kind of trying to innovate some different ways of showing hobby rather than just sort of filming my desk. So those are kind of my hobby goals for the next year.
Right, Skari, what kind of hobby goals do you
Either
have?
or works.
Am I allowed to call you by your first name? I keep thinking I'm making a mistake, but I'm used to reading your messages. You know what I mean? Like, we normally talk. I don't call you Skari, so it's
Yeah. No, 100%. Well, my name is Rizvan, so Skari is the name I use when I'm here in the spire. The spire atop the dark city. The dark kin.
There's so many people happy that you said that.
Yeah, 100%. I love it when you plug that soundbite in the podcast. It's really fun. Okay, so hobby accomplishments that I liked in 2018. Number one, finish that 2,000 point tournament army by the end of February. So I'm going to do that by making sure I dedicate an hour of painting every day. The other thing I'm going to be finishing is I'm making sure that I have at least one table worth of terrain that all matches. I have a ton of terrain that I've been collecting for, 15 years, and I've never had one set of terrain for one table. So I'm using the desert table wall mat, like the old Fat Mat table wall mat, and I'm essentially repainting a bunch of line of sight blockers, some buildings, some of the battlefield in a box, deserty rocks and things like that.
Yep.
And I'm priming everything, I'm painting everything to match the table, so it is all the same, so it all fits. So I'm very excited about that. And then I'm going to do a jungle terrain aboard.
Sick.
So that's my biggest thing. I got my big asteroid table this year. That was actually something I forgot to mention. That I've done a couple bad reports on. It's a giant commission table that I got. It's incredible what can be accomplished for the community, with the support of patrons and stuff like that. And so that has inspired me to make sure I have at least another 2 tables or 3 that are very specific, and the terrain is very meant to kind of go together and is cohesive, and the colors kind of match and the shading is the same. And so that's my biggest hobby goal is not only to have my army painted, but to have a cohesive set of tables that I can forge some sick narratives on, and hopefully create more content that way too.
Awesome, nice. So I guess for myself, I really, really want to have my Fire Slayers fully painted this year to the point where if I need to modify them, I can just grab a unit, paint it, grab a character, paint it, like my Eldar was. So when I was playing at my prime with my Eldar, which would have been 2016, I had basically everything fully painted with freehand and the board done and the tokens done, and every time I changed my list I would just paint that one thing. And so I want to get that way with both my Fire Slayers and my Chaos Space Marine army, so that I have a solid, fully painted, none of this dipped and based thing that I've been doing the last year. Fully painted. If I need a unit, I just grab it, paint it, and I want to get that totally caught up for both of those armies. I also want to paint both my Eldar Titans, just get those done. Finished, and then I want to reorganize all my terrain because we have CanHammer Team Tournament coming up this year. We're set to have 100 or more players, which means that Jason and I need to supply 50 tables. So I would like to get up to my 25 to 30 40k and Age of Sigmar tables, binned up, organized, fixed up, and just ready to go for future events, so it's a lot easier on me. So it's going to be a really ambitious year. I also want to do minimum 12 Well, I guess we'll get to the gaming next. So we'll go on to you, Darren. What's your gaming goals this year?
Yeah, just to finish off on the hobby. So about tables, so I have about 4 tables now of independent sort of different look terrain, and I have commissioned Adam at Greenleaf Terrain for a new table that's going to be a Space Marine base on which to park my Thunderhawk and my Mastodon, because they're kind of can't be played anymore.
Well,
so they're going to be really cool looking terrain.
And I commissioned him to make me 4 tables, so take that.
Sweet. I also
anybody that
BJ
doesn't know, we should
making
let's plug him, because he does awesome work.
Oh yeah, Adam at Greenleaf Terrain. He does. If you were at Capital City, you would have seen his Imperial Fist army, which won Best Painted, I believe, right? Yeah, it won Best Painted, but it's just crazy. Like, you look at it and just like, okay, I'm never going to be able to do that. But he also makes excellent terrain. He's actually selling his display board that he used for the tournament. If anybody wants a really nice waterfall sort of cliff scenery. But yeah,
he did my other display board too.
Yeah. Very, very talented. So he's doing a bunch more tables for all of us, I guess. And so hopefully I'll be able to contribute a bunch of tables as well to these various tournaments. So, yeah, because I've slowly just been accumulating them for bat reps over the last year and a half, just accumulating tables.
You do funnel
tables.
all the donated terrain to your house for the channel.
Yeah.
So let's be fair, you do funnel that, but that's okay because you do so much more filming than I do. But anyway, so get on to your gaming goal, Darren. What's your gaming goal for the next year, 2018?
Well, now that my daughter's a little bit older, I feel like I want to get out to more tournaments, actually. So I was going to go to Berry Bash, but unfortunately it's on my wife's birthday, so that's a definite no-go. But yeah, I definitely want to get out to more tournaments and maybe even consider traveling to a tournament that's not too far. So I want to do that, continue to, and then I want to become more, obviously, with Logan having stepped away, sort of to get with Chris and do more organizing and TOing. So starting to run the P&P as well as helping run and organize and maybe even TO things like CanHammer Team and Capital City, things like that. So gain more TO experience. And then my final goal personally for gaming this year is to find a faction that I really like, which I think I've found, which is Guard, and just get really, really good at it and just keep playing one army and just tweak it. I was doing that leading up to the last P&P. I just tweaked it every day, tweaking a little bit, and I got pretty good at it, and I'm just going to keep going at it. I've been dabbling in the Dark Angels to give it a chance, but it's just disappointing. So I'm going to keep going with the Guard and keep moving forward with it and just try and get really, really good at it.
Good stuff. So what's your gaming goals there, Skari?
So, very similar to what you said there, Darren. Well, first of all, gaming goals. The biggest gaming goal I have is making sure that I play that Dark Eldar competitive list and just know it like the back of my hand. And you know, ideally, it's not about exactly what you put in the list. Like, that does help when you're playing competitively. But truly, the thing that I've found historically that works best for me is just knowing the capabilities of the list that you do have and how far you can push, you know, the models that you've decided to take in the army. So really, my aim is to get top 3 at a larger event with my Dark Eldar. You know, I'd like to get that done before the index comes out, just to prove the point. But you know, before the codex comes out. But I'm willing to do it with the codex as well. Biggest thing is I am aiming and planning to go to some bigger events. I'm going to the Hellmouth tournament at the end of January, which is a doubles event that happens in Parry Sound every year. And I am more than planning to actually be able to make it to the Capital City Bloodbath this year. You know, last year I was unable to go due to some family stuff. So I'm definitely making sure that I can go this time.
Yep. Cool. So I guess that goes on to me, and I'm pretty standard. I want to be one of the top Chaos Space Marine players there is, and I want to be one of the top Fire Slayer players there is. So all my focus I want to just put into those 2 factions, and you know, I always dabble in other stuff. Like, I want to get my Eldar out a little bit, but my main goal is going to be focus on those 2 factions. try not to get the gamer ADD down, get them. As I said earlier, I want to go to at least an event a month. I want to get those ranking scores up. I want to be ready for the ETC if I get selected to play. And just, I want to also run CanHammer Team, which we are, Capital City Bloodbath, and at least 3 or 4 other events, as we usually do. I usually do about 5 to 6 little ones a year, so we're hoping to also maintain that one. So, but as far as gaming goes, I just want to get really good with 2 armies, and 1 in Sigmar, 1 in 40k, and just be that guy. Like, I want to be the Chaos Space Marine guy, if I can be. So, I guess with that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to talk about the winners and losers of 2017.
Hey CanHammer fans, this is John Green, CanHammer team member and TO of Ontario's largest Warhammer 40k tournament. CanHammer and Forbes Hobbies are proud to bring you the CanHammer Team Tournament 2018, taking place in the lovely Cambridge, Ontario on April 28th and 29th. CHTT is an annual ETC-style team tournament entering its 4th year running. Last year's tournament was Canada's first ITC major event ever, with 80 players across 20 teams taking part. The only way we decided to make 2018 even better was to make the event even bigger, and this year we have decided to go with 5-man teams across 20, so that's 100 players total. Last year's event sold out in 8 minutes. 8 minutes! So don't miss out and make sure that you sign up early. See you all on the battlefield.
And we are back, and we're going to talk about the winners and losers and some other miscellaneous things from 2017. So take it away, Darren.
Yeah, so I just wanted to poll you guys in terms of your opinions. So I put out a few questions for you guys about a week ago just to think about. So in terms of who are the real heroes of 2017, and so what I want to, it can be a faction or a model or a unit or whatever, but it has to include also, you know, 7th and 8th. So somebody who's survived the transition from 7th to 8th and has been a hero of 2017. Any thoughts, guys?
Easy. You want mine? Ynnari, man. So Ynnari are the only faction, I think, that was both top tier at the beginning of 2017. I know they didn't really come out till right around the beginning of 2017, but so they came out, they were excellent all the way through, actually dominating, almost game ruining, Grey Knight style. 5th edition 40k was ruined by the Grey Knight book. I heard it on another podcast. They talked about like an Eldar unit ruins every edition. And so Ynnari came in and ruined 7th edition 40k for me, personally. I thought it was just ridiculous, and I played them. And I was like, this is just stupid. So that ruined them, so I think they did. And then they came into 8th edition. A lot of people didn't quite have their head wrapped around them, but they were excellent. A definite dominating force. And then even with this new Craftworld Eldar book that came out, and this huge FAQ that dropped, the Ynnari are still usable as a decent detachment that makes up at least a third of your army.
Yep. So
that's one of the real heroes. Now, it depends what you guys want to talk about. So, like, do you want to do, like there are heroes of 8th edition or whatever, but do you have any heroes?
Yeah,
Skari?
no, we'll get to that. Like, we're just trying to think throughout, like, who survived the transition.
I want to say demons survived the transition quite well, like in terms of a faction, because they were quite strong with the brims as brims started becoming more popular, and then as soon as 8th hit, they really got incredible.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that the demons were one of the strongest armies in 7th, all the way through, actually. And even in 6th they were. And then and then they were strong in 8th in the beginning. So yeah, I definitely see that.
They still are pretty strong.
So they are, but they're about 80% Chaos Space Marine armies nowadays. Ever since the Chaos Space Marine book dropped, I think you've seen the demons almost vanish, but the brims.
Yeah. I had Ynnari and Eldar, although Eldar took a dip when the Index came out. They're back up there now. But the one faction I had that maybe less obvious is more specifically Ultramarines. So I think Ultramarines were strong in 7th due to Battle Company, things like that. And then they got Guilliman And then Bobby G and Ultramarines have stayed pretty strong in 8th.
So I'm going to disagree with you there because you said Ultramarines. I think if you would have said Space Marines, so if you had a Space Marine army, because if you really think about Ultramarines in 7th Ed were just not used.
That's true. I guess it was mostly like White Scars.
It was White Scars. So like I think you're right if you said Space Marines. So if you had a big Space Marine army, you survived the transition quite well and intact.
Yeah.
But yeah, you might have had to lie about your colors or spray paint your armor or do something to change it up.
Especially with like the start of 8th edition, it went from Battle Company to Storm Raven Company, and that change happened pretty quick. And so yeah, definitely Space Marines have been prevalent in 7th and in 8th. I think that definitely like power armor is still a very big thing to keep in mind too.
And the funny thing too is, yeah. So the funny part about that too is Marines were also, there was a completely different build, but Marines were also great in 6th Ed. You had a lot of the Centurion stars and things like that. So it's funny that all the books that we said survived the transition from 7th to 8th survived the transition from 6th to 7th as well to a certain extent. And it's just kind of funny that like some books or some armies are just always going to be good because of the way in which they're designed, right? Like if you're a fast-moving, heavy-shooting army, you're going to be good, right, in every edition. If you're a durable, slow-paced, heavy-casting, like defensive build, you're going to be good as well in all editions. It doesn't really matter which ones you are, right? So.
And that's a perfect segue into then the zeros of 2017. So who was bad in 7th and remains bad?
Dark Eldar. No. Sorry.
No, you can have that one. You can have that one if you want.
Yeah, you're gonna give that one to me?
I'll give that one to you. It's just
I appreciate it. I'm gonna debunk that theory, but that's my vote.
So they had to have been.
Go ahead.
So you think like you're just like saying which books were bad in both editions?
Yeah, which factions?
So Genestealer cults were obviously they're not like the worst book in the world, but they were not good in both editions.
They were not bad in 7th, when they had just come out.
Yeah, they were not bad, but they were very situational. You had to play against people that didn't protect themselves correctly. You had to roll the correct dice to get your guys to come in. They were very random.
Granted.
And they're the same thing now.
FAQ,
yeah, and they're the same way now. They're very situational. You have to roll the right dice. And that has changed with the chapter approved, made them a lot better, in my opinion, this edition. But I think Genestealer cults, maybe they stayed the same. They weren't necessarily a loser, but they were bad. Like they weren't top tier in either edition. Like something. So if you're going by losers, like wouldn't a loser be somebody who was good in 7th and lost in 8th?
No. So the first thing we talked about was people who were good in both, and so now we're talking about people who were bad in both.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because a lot of the same old factions are bad. Like Deathwing are bad in both, but Dark Angels.
Death Watch.
Actually, I would almost say Dark Angels, they got much better in 8th, but the Ultramarines definitely overshadowed them. Admech were actually pretty good in 7th, but got worse in 8th, so they don't really count for that. So
Death Watch, bad in both.
Death Watch definitely is bad in both, for sure.
And a special mention, it's not a faction, but Terminators of all colors, bad in both.
Yeah, for sure.
Terminators, like Chaos Terminators, aren't too terrible.
In small quantities.
I think
like plasmas and stuff.
Yeah, but if you compare them to what an Obliterator does for the points cost, they're terrible.
Okay, fair.
You're right. Like in a vacuum, they're not bad, but when you compare them,
they're not like as bad as they were. All Terminators got remarkably better in 8th.
Yes, than they were in 7th. They got better, but they're still almost unplayable.
Yeah.
I will agree to disagree, sir.
I have 40 painted Terminators, man. I know. I've felt that pain.
I dare you to bring them out for a game.
I have. It's not fun. It's really not fun. Okay, so what are we doing now? We're going to do...
All right, so now we're going to do what's probably obvious to most people who play a lot, but what are the top 3 factions that won in 8th?
Like what?
Where they weren't good in 7th, but now they're good.
Ooh.
I'll let you start.
So, the top faction that was garbage is Astra Militarum,
Top 3.
of course.
Yeah,
Top 3 that were bad and now are good.
So as far as like Spectrum, like Astra Militarum went from one of the worst books to being the best book by far. I think it's still the best book, even with the latest nerfs. Another major winner is Chaos Space Marines. They went from... There was only one Chaos Space Marine build you could use in 7th edition, and that was with Magnus and 4 Demon Princes, or 3 Demon Princes, sorry. And so they went from being absolutely trash to being phenomenal. And if you include like things like Death Guard, which kind of got branched out from that, then Chaos Space Marines for sure are just amazing compared to what they used to be. They're number 2. And then number 3, I actually didn't write one down because...
Tyranids.
I couldn't decide, but
Tyranids is my number 3.
I'll give you guys Tyranids as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Tyranids went from, if you sold them, it was only 6 stack of flight, Deck of Tyrants or whatever. You had a couple of spores and things like that to just kind of supplement the GC Lakota army, all the way to like they are some scary bugs out there right now. Yeah,
and like the Flyrants are still really good. The Flyrant army.
Flyrants are incredibly good.
Yeah. But I guess for me, I was always super terrified of the Flyrant army for some stupid reason. So I always thought of Nids as like a player. But you guys are definitely right with that one.
Yeah, what's funny, I'm reading the book Devastation of Baal right now, which is where the Tyranid, the High Fleet Leviathan, takes over the Blood Angels Baal. And they're really scary in that book. So I'm like, now it kind of makes sense.
So are we going to do the bottom 3 now?
Yeah, so now we're going to go people who were awesome in 7th and now are now losers.
Oh, number 1, you know what number 1 is?
Yeah, yes.
Necrons.
Yes,
really?
Totally.
Yeah, because Necrons are
100%.
garbage.
But were they that good in 7th?
Oh, yeah.
They were
fall.
really good in 7th.
For a while.
Really?
Near the end, Necrons had kind of lost their way. But even that, the Pylon Star was great right until Magnus came out.
Those Tesla, Destructors or whatever, were that you could jink and twin-link them. Oh, man, that was just so silly.
Okay, Necrons. I didn't have that, actually. I totally forgot about the Necrons. I apologize to the Dynasty.
By far. They went from being a lower upper tier contender to not a contender. And I should say, so on the previous list that was good, I didn't say Eldar because we concluded that they were good in both editions, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't want anybody being like, you didn't say Eldar was good. Because I think I just said Astra Militarum is the best book, and I'm actually changing my tune to maybe be Eldar the best book. But... okay, we'll go back to where we were. So Necrons are obviously the biggest losers of the shift.
I've got Tau on this list.
Yeah, second biggest loser is Tau to me. Because Tau... so when I was making that list, I thought, Tau are still playable in 8th. Yes, the build is completely different, but that commander build, I actually have to worry about it. Like the 200 drone, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 commanders, it's crazy.
And they're longer range, rapid fire, and things like the drones and the commanders, those 5 fusion gun commanders coming down and just destroying everything is no joke.
Yeah, it's no joke, and I planned for it, so that's why I kind of didn't. That's why I put the Necrons first, because I don't even think Necrons when I go in.
The FAQ just makes it better as well. Now that the drones can hide out of line of sight, and can't shoot the characters.
Yeah, it means you can take more commanders.
Which just makes it even better or worse in that case.
So, Darren, who'd you put for 2 or 1 and 2?
Yeah, I had Tau. I forgot the Necrons, as I said, and I put a cheeky little thing in. I put the Raid Knight as 1 unit, particularly. That was
because you said you would do units too.
Yeah, that was King and is now never seen. I don't think I've seen this Raid Knight on the table for since 8th started.
Nah, they're not very good at all in 8th. They're just not very good.
And I put the old Imperial agents. Other than the assassins, they used to have some use here and there splashed in, and now literally all those little Imperial agent things are literally just filler for cheap brigades. And I don't know what their plan is for that for the Imperial Agents in 8th, but hopefully something.
So my next one might be controversial, but I put Grey Knights.
Interesting.
Because, so this is why I put them as my third big... So people will say, well, they're probably better now than they were in 7th. They're not really, maybe. But the reason that I put Grey Knights as a real loser is that they got a new Codex book, and they're a big loser. Like, AdMech 2, it was questionable between Grey Knights and AdMech for me, to be honest. But AdMech right now actually scare me a lot with some of the Imperial soup. I think if you go pure AdMech, they're not as good as the pure AdMech was in the previous edition. But the AdMech right now with the right Imperial stuff can be very scary. Like, I played against 6 robots twice now in tournaments, so competitive tournaments, and I did win both games, but it was like terrifying. And I play a good counter to that.
Those bounce back mortal wounds, and like it's quite good actually.
Yeah, so that's why I went with the Grey Knights, because I went, maybe they stayed the same, but they got a brand new book, so that's pathetic that they're still trash.
Yeah.
That does make sense. I would agree with that.
Okay, not that controversial in the end then.
So what did you do for your third one then?
No, that was my 3: Imperial Agents, Wraith Knight, and Tau.
Oh, that's right. You did the Wraith Knight. Yeah.
I will add in the Venom. The Venom was really, really, really good, and it's still good right now, but it's definitely not as like good as it was.
Oh yeah, I agree, 100%. But back to Darren's point on the agents, the Imperial Agents, I totally agree with you. There was always a reason to take like an Inquisitor with servo skulls, or to take who's the guy with the eagle there? Codiaz. You would take him, and you could even get away with Acolytes. And there was some 8th edition lists where it was like Acolytes and Storm Ravens to score at like the ETC and stuff like that. But nowadays, like you just kind of like flip through the Imperial Agents and just like, I don't need any of this.
Yeah, or I need 3 elites, so I'll take 1 acolyte for like 2 points or whatever. You know?
Yeah, that's like it, but it's like it's almost a joke to take them. So I definitely get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool,
okay.
Cool.
Well, we'll lead on to now 3 things you're looking forward to in 2018.
Like from a model release point of view.
Or factions, or something related to the game. Not your hobby goals or your gaming goals. Like 3 things that you're hoping the GW does.
Okay, well, take it away, Skari.
So, Dark Codex, please, thank you.
When do you think that's going to come out?
As soon as possible. I definitely would like to see, yes, Chapter Proof is really cool. We got like a Strategy, we got some relic stuff. It's enough to like appease, a budding Archon, but it's definitely not enough, and we want more. But that essentially is the one thing that I'm really excited about. Everything else, like, I've seen things come and go, and that, I believe, is the thing I'm most excited about. It's just a new book, and not having to wait 13 years to get a new book.
13
I can
years.
see that. Dark Codex would be really awesome. So for me, I guess you want me to go next then? The 3 things that I'm looking forward to. Number 1, they're not in any particular order, because I didn't want to put an order on them, but I want an Orc Codex, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to General's Handbook 2018, because I just love that comes out every year, and I know that the chapter approved equivalent in 40K is not the same quality or the same impact as the Age of Sigmar equivalent. I think they kind of missed the boat with 40K a little bit with their rules updates as opposed to Sigmar. And then the last thing I'm really hoping, looking forward to, is the Demon Codex, which I know is coming out in a week from now, so it's kind of whatever, but I was really, really waiting that, because it changes all my builds, right? So I said I want to be Chaos Space Marine, but I definitely have a heavy Demon force as well. And so that Demon book, you might hear me in 2 weeks say that, no, I'm abandoning Chaos Space Marines and going back to Demons, but, theoretically, I just want to see the Brim nerf come, so that I can cut those from my list and start planning to go pure Chaos Space Marine, or if it doesn't come as bad as people are predicting, the nerf, then I can keep my demons in my list. So those are my 3.
Nice.
Okay, so I had number 1, the Lion. So I was disappointed with my Dark Angels Codex, not because the Lion didn't come, but because I think that the Codex is not that great. So, potentially
that's
I'm not.
Just because you're used to playing Astra Militarum, so you're going from driving that's like me being like, oh, this Saturn doesn't handle that great compared to my Ferrari.
But whatever the reason, I was still disappointed with the Codex, and I'm not getting another Codex, right, till the next edition. So, but I still think they've already said that the next Primarch is a Loyalist, and it's going to be one that they've never done before in any system. So I'm still holding out hope that in a campaign book somewhere, the Lion might reappear. So I'm still holding out.
They've done the Lion, though, right? In 30K?
No.
Ooh, you sure they didn't do the Lion?
Pretty sure. But I don't play 30K, but pretty sure they don't.
They said they've never done them in any system.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so that's number 1.
Vulcan was done. We'll have to look into that. If any of the listeners know which Primarchs have never been done in any system, let us know.
The Khan has never been done.
Has Dorn been done?
Dorn, I don't think has been done. Although I saw somebody on Instagram painting a Dorn model.
Yeah, but that's like a third party.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So that's my number 1. Number 2, since they've already leaked that there's going to be an HQ for it, I wonder if we're going to get a Custodes faction, like a proper faction. Because I would love to use some of that 30K shit in 40K. I already have some of those Dreadnoughts, which are just sick-ass models. But, you just can't, other than splashing a unit or 2 of Custodes into your list, it's not really a faction. It don't really have an HQ yet, although that's supposedly coming. So I would love to see a Custodes faction, because that would be the only army that I consider taking up right now, because I don't feel like I want to take on another army at this time. So Custodes, that's number 2. And number 3 is Space Wolves.
Whoa, somebody's vibrating pretty rough.
I want to see a Space Wolves Codex. Apparently, people think it's going to be the last Codex to be released. But because I do have a significant amount of Space Wolves, and I'd like to put them on the table. And so that's kind of my third one there.
Interesting. I would love to see a Custodian army that works, but they're going to need, in order to have their own book, they're going to need a bunch of units released from GW. Because I think what Chapter Approved this year kind of set the tone is that Forge World is no longer in the competitive 40K, right? It's more meant for a fun side project or maybe to supplement something. And
some of the big Forge World stuff, yes. But things like the Sakaran tank and like other like smaller Forge World kits are still very much useful.
Maybe. Most of them, though, aren't, in my opinion, which, whatever. But, so I would think they would need to flush out a bunch of plastic kits for that range, which would be awesome to have another kind of brand new faction that we've never really had before. They have a lot of jet bikes. And one thing that I would like to see them do with that is Custodes could be the elite Grey Knight equivalent army that's actually good. Because right now, there's very few elite armies that are good. You got Death Guard, but even them, they could be argued that they're not that elite because they have their core, which is like solid expensive, but they also have their zombies, right, which make a big deal. And so the way the D6 system works, you're stuck with hordes. So if you can't do hordes, you can't really win. So that's kind of why I hope they do the Custodes right and they make them over the top so that they actually work.
Yeah, I guess they'd probably be lumped in with sisters because they always work together. Fluff-wise, they always work together with the sisters.
And that's the thing. Me owning a sister army, you think that I would have picked a sister codex, but I'm really not that excited for a sister's codex for some reason. I'm not sure why. I actually thought that they would
sisters,
get rid of them.
not Sisters of Battle, Sisters of Silence.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, because they always, in the fluff, they're always working together, right? The Custodians and Sisters of Silence. So the Talons of the Emperor, whatever that box was called. So that's undoubtedly going to come together. But what else they put into there, maybe then that's where all the Inquisition and stuff goes. So who knows?
I could see that.
So you got any more holiday or year-end questions for us, Darren?
Nope, that was my my big questions.
Cool. So we'll go on to some Q&A. So we don't have too many because I, as usual, didn't post it that much in advance because I'm just useless this time of year with the holidays. So we got one really good question from Kyle. What is your opinion on the new beta rules? For the Smite beta rule, does this mean that Psyker-heavy lists like demons are going to be built to use their own powers, or are they going to see those lists drop off without Malefic Lord spam? I personally feel Smite was meant to be a filler power when conditions would not permit casting of units' main power. Any thoughts on this? So, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Now, the Smite spam isn't that bad because it's cast on a 5. So you're going to get like 3 of them off. So yeah, you're not going to have a list that just spams 10 smites. It's going to be 3 or 4. And then you're right, because all these books have more powers now, it's more and more appropriate to kind of nerf smite now than it was that long ago. So I think you're going to see a lot of lists with a couple casters that have some kind of obscure power that maybe helps you out. Like there's a couple, like one of the Death Guard powers. This is maybe not the best example, but it's every enemy model on a 6-up takes a mortal wound. Well, that's great if you have like a 30-man unit. You're going to get more mortal wounds than doing a smite. But you're right, if they're like an elite army, you could just cast smite instead, and it kind of works out. So I think that Psyker-heavy armies are going to be huge. Like, you're just not going to take 8 Primaris Psykers, or 10. You're going to take 5 or 6. So if you take 6 Primaris Psykers, you can do the -1 to hit power, you can do the +1 save power, and then you can do 3 smites, which is perfectly reasonable. And then maybe you have 1 guy extra to try for a 4 smite, and just to kind of have redundancy if you're craving that. But I think you're going to see more and more like, so one thing I was playing around with when that smite came in, is I changed my list a lot. So instead of taking 10 Slaanesh Heralds, I would take 1 Malefic Plaguecaster, because he has 2 powers and they're different. I take a Chaos Space Marine Sorcerer. I take Tzeentch Herald. I took a Slaanesh Herald. I took just more variety, so that, as you said, I could use their main power and then also use them as a smite backup in addition to. So,
yeah, I think the codexes that have come out already, where people have their full sort of fleshed out psychic trees. Whenever I've played those armies, I've already noticed that there's much less smite. It used to be that because you only have 3 powers, and if they're not good, well, the only thing you can cast is smite anyway. But now we're seeing that people are kind of finding uses for the spells in their own tree, that if they have nothing else to do or they failed all their other stuff, then they'll just smite somebody. But it's certainly, and then, Malefic Lords already kind of got nerfed in other ways as well. So I think we will see less smite. I feel sorry for the Grey Knights again, whose smite already was only doing 1 damage except to demons, and now it's getting harder and harder to cast for them. So
that might have been a mistake on their part. Like, the Grey Knight smite should just go back up to D3 now that they've nerfed it. I think the Grey Knights were their like kind of first step at nerfing smite, but it's sad, but it's I'm not sad to see the smite go. The only thing that really worries me about the smite spam going away is the super characters coming back. So what you're going to notice nowadays is that the things like, so I'm not really too worried that Darren's taking 5 casters instead of 8. I'm really worried that armies can no longer kill Mortarion as quickly, or can kill certain big stuff. So now you're going to see a shift more towards super characters and super units and elite units. And actually, to Darren's point, a unit of Custodes is super hard to deal with. They're actually very good. They're super underutilized.
Very, very tough. Yeah, they're 3 wounds each. But at the same time, there's ways to kind of mitigate that. Like for armies that relied a lot on smite, or that had a lot of access to smite, the nerf doesn't really affect them too badly. For example, if you were to use a Chaos Space Marine army, or demon army, there's ways to get like pluses to cast. So if you want to get a lot of smites off, you would start with the ones that don't get bonuses, and then kind of like work your way to the ones that do get bonuses, so that it offsets the nerf. I mean the negative modifier. And there's other armies such as like Eldar that, if you're running, say, an Uthway army, Eldrad gets +1 to cast, like, for every power that he casts, sort of thing. So you could kind of aim it so he casts Smite at the end, while they have, like, a relic that allows a Farseer or a caster to get +1 to their roll when casting Smite.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of ways around it if you want to do it with certain armies that like having a lot of Smite. But I think the biggest thing was the change to things like the Malefic Lord. That, that's how they really nerfed Smite, was the fact that the main caster is now more expensive, and if you were to Perils of the Warp, he still goes, like, bonkers, but he doesn't just become a Demon Prince for, like, 30 points. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
Yeah. What's interesting is a lot of the new codexes have a power that's kind of similar to Smite, and they inevitably get compared to Smite in terms of, oh, this is better than Smite, or you might as well just Smite. But now that maybe Smite becomes less prevalent, now we're starting to see, maybe just all part of the grand plan. I don't know.
I don't think so, because you're thinking like think of the Eldar Codex. They have that Smite-like power, but you're never going to take that over any of the other powers.
Executioner.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
But that's your new Smite.
I would beg to differ. I love
4 character
Executioner.
sniping, right?
No, well, Executioner is D3 mortal wounds, and if you kill an enemy model, it does an additional D3 mortal wounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fantastic against small 5 to 6 man backfield objective holders, because you can effectively wipe out a small unit with 1 smite.
Yeah, and although I agree, if I'm having a Farseer, that's not one of the powers I personally am going to give him, but that's just me.
Well, 100%. But I'm talking from a Dark Eldar perspective, where all the other powers benefit Eldari models. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
Azuriani models. So from that perspective, it's the only power that makes sense, that really kind of supplements the Smite and the Doom.
Yeah, and when I approach the Eldar book, I approach it from a purely craft world perspective. So, yeah, no, I see what you're saying, and it's a good point. But yeah, it's... They almost... So there's a few things that they almost over-nerfed, and that's the one... If we're looking back at the year, I'm going to go off topic a little bit, but you look back at the year, GW did swing the nerf bat, but there's a couple times when they over-swang the nerf bat. One of them was with conscripts. So conscripts went from, oh my god, take 200, to oh my god, take none. Like, they went so far. They didn't need to go up to 4 points and get the Commissar nerf and get the 4+ order nerf. It was just too much. Like, maybe if conscripts were 3 points and they got all the other nerfs, you'd maybe see them still. And there's things like this Brim nerf that I've speculated is coming. Like, I know everybody's fed up and has no patience for Brimstones anymore, and they're all happy, but you got to remember now those Brimstones are not usable if those rules are in effect. So, ignoring that personal assault, blah, 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 that's like, it went from being super awesome to unplayable, which to me is kind of weird. And same thing with the Malefic Lords, right? They are now unplayable. And it's just kind of like sometimes the nerf bat doesn't need to go full swing. It can go like 10%. Like, I liked what they did with a lot of the Astra Militarum stuff. Oh, this thing went up 8 points, 12 points. And so on the whole army, if everything in the army went up like 10 or 12 points, you're basically just having to remove 2 things from your list, and it just makes it a little bit easier to kill. But, with some things, they just over nerfed them.
Overcompensated.
Yeah, which I find a little bit frustrating, because it's like, I'd rather everything be competitive and balanced, as opposed to, like, some people are petty and are like, well, you had your Brims overpowered for a year, so screw you, I want them just crap, and they're happy over that, which is, I guess, their choice. But, I'm trying to not focus on Brims, but it's the one that's in my mind right now, because that's personal. But you know what I'm saying? Next thing, like, they find out Obliterators are so good, and they make them like 300 points, and now you're like, well, now nobody takes them, right? It's just not fun. Because I don't think the Astra Militarum players complained. Like, none of their stuff went crazy through the roof. It all just went up a little bit, and they're still probably one of the best books, and they're still, it's an easier pill to swallow because they had to take away 2 Tauroxes or 1 from their list.
Yeah.
Yep.
So next question's from Brandon, and it's, who do we got to pay to bring 7th Ed back? And the reason I'm asking this question is because, somebody Martin answered no amount of money should bring it back, but if given the choice right now, would you like to go back to 7th, or are you fine with 8th?
Hell
No way. No way.
7th can rot in the hole that it came from.
Yeah, I'm torn on that question. I thought about that. I really, really enjoyed 7th, but I really enjoy 8th.
I like 8th so much more.
Now, I like 8th more now than I did maybe 4 months ago. So if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that I loved it from the beginning, but so much crazy shit has been nerfed in the last couple months that the game is in a really good place again.
Yeah.
You know, if they wouldn't have been hit... So I know I just complained about the nerf ban, but if they wouldn't have nerfed some of those things, then the game would just be unplayable right now. Like, I played that Razor Flock army when the edition first came out, and that was the only time in maybe 25 years of playing in this hobby where I was literally like, I don't want to play.
Wow. That you rage quit? Like,
I didn't rage quit.
I can imagine that.
I made the guy. I made him table me because it was at the ETC, and he was a really lovely chap. I played, and they were a great team. Denmark. They were just an awesome team. But I literally was sitting there, and I was like, I actually don't want to play this arm. I don't want to play against you. And I asked him, my opponent. He says, no, I don't actually like playing it.
Yeah, well, it's dull. Have you tried? Like, being a person who plays, like, maybe 20 Razor Wings sometimes. You know, getting into combat with them is fun, but when you have to roll for them, it's such a pain.
Well, and it was like, that was his whole army. And I'm like, okay, that's your whole army. And it was like so much. And he had to roll it was just, yeah, I've never felt that way. Never in a million years. And, you know, 7th edition, like, do I miss being able to fly my Magnus across people's armies and just, like, taking, like, I don't miss, like, I actually don't miss that because it wasn't fun needing 6s to hit a flyer that you couldn't kill even if you could hit it on 3s. And the Screamer Star was not fun because it was either a 2+ rerolling 1s or it was like trash and you got the thing nuked because you screwed up one die roll. It wasn't fun playing against 3 Riptides every game. I didn't mind it so much because I played Demons, so it was like, or Eldar, so I was like, whatever, I'll kill them. But those Riptides, I actually haven't heard the same level of venom this edition as I did in 7th Ed. Like, people would get so mad. Like, there were so many things in 7th Ed that would just happen and would just piss people off. And I don't think that happens anymore. Maybe a little bit.
But games are over so much quicker in 8th edition.
Sometimes.
You know, so like, well, the game just happens a lot faster. Like, it feels like you're playing the game from turn 1. Whereas there was a lot of, you know, null deploy or, you know, don't get me wrong, I love null deploying myself, but, you know, just different game mechanics that I find, like, 8th is just, it's just more of a game.
Yeah.
And I can't put a price on that. I would not take that away. I've had more fun with 8th edition than I've had since 3rd edition.
Yeah, and I know some people say, like, 8th edition comes down to who goes first and that people get tabled, like, turn 1. But I personally just haven't seen that.
No, I disagree. It's you have to have good terrain on the board, like, you have to be able to hide. And you have to plan to go second, like back in the day.
Yeah. Plan on going second, deploy back. Sometimes you get the mirror match, he goes first, that is what it is, right? Yeah. And a lot of people that say stuff like that, they take Alpha Strike armies, right? Yeah, like, if you both take 5 Storm Ravens, it matters who goes first. But if you don't, you don't. Now, actually, one question that I have, do you guys miss the auto go first? Like in Age of Sigmar, whoever finishes deploying first chooses to go first or second. And when 8th edition dropped, that was the rule. Do you like the fact that, I think it was the ITC guys that kind of twisted GW's... Did you like that or not?
No, I didn't like it.
I wasn't. I like the fact that you can kind of plan for it, but I prefer it when it's a roll-off, to be honest.
Yep, me too.
I might be the only one. I preferred it when you knew who was going first before you started deploying.
Yeah, like it was good because you could kind of be like, okay, I know I'm gonna go second and you could kind of plan for it, and that's great. But at the same time, like I love the fact that they don't know they're going first, you don't know they're going first, so you really both have to deploy a little conservatively.
Yeah. I don't know, I kind of wish maybe instead of a +1, it was like for every unit you deploy. I think I talked about this before. So if you deploy 3 more units than me, then I'll get like a +3 or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, that's the one thing that I do miss. I did kind of like in 7th, I always kind of knew that, who was going first or second. Like you just kind of knew. And I feel like in 8th edition, there's times when I'm like, oh, okay, I need this role, or I don't like needing a role, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
Cool. So I guess that's...
You play a lot of Age of Sigmar anyway, so I don't know what you're worried about.
Yeah, and I love that rule in it, and but it also meant like all of a sudden spam was a bad thing. Like, so at the beginning of 8th Ed, if you spam lots of units, it was like, oh, I'm going second. So, like, a lot of people would do things to get their list down. Like, you'd see, like, instead of taking 5 Storm Ravens, a guy would take 4 Storm Ravens and would put, like, Dreadnoughts in them. So that he would always go first against Storm Raven lists. And that's gone now, which is like, that was so much fun that you'd be like... Because we definitely screwed up. We put 2 Collected Assassins in a Storm Raven list, and it always went second and, like, always lost to Storm Ravens. And I kind of like that, you know, your choices mattered more, but...
Right.
Cool, so I think that's it for our, I guess, 2018 show. So, you know, Happy New Year, guys. Happy holidays.
Yep.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yep.
Thank you for completing this episode of CanHammer. If you'd like more information on what we do, our YouTube channel, or any events we run, see canhammer.ca. If you would like to donate to the show, you can visit patreon.com/canhammer, where you can donate and subscribe, and you'll get some sick rewards. If donating is not your thing, then just leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. That really helps us get recognized and helps new people find the show. So with that, hopefully we'll see you on the battlefield.